Put the roof on.
Board of Aldermen shall come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Morse.
Present.
Price.
Present.
Ballard.
Here.
Ross.
Here.
Sagasser.
Here.
Raines.
Here. Present.
Wilson.
Present.
We have a quorum. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. I'm entertaining a motion to accept the agenda.
I'm move that as long as we put in Alderman comments before
Want to do
we
that?
go into a
Executive.
All right.
executive session.
Before the executive session?
Yes,
All right. Can we add that to the motion then?
I make that motion.
Okay.
I second
That
that.
is the motion. Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it carries. We've accepted the agenda, and we will add Alderman comments prior to the executive session. I guess now we will begin our program with Micah Titterington with Community Outreach Ministries. Would you want to step, Mr. Titterington, to the microphone and enlighten us, please, sir?
Well, good evening, everyone. So, like I said, my name is Micah Titterington. I'm the Executive Director at Community Outreach Ministries, or COM. So I know a lot of you, but if you don't, that's why. So just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update about some of the things that are happening around like housing and homelessness, kind of within the community and at COM, and also some ways that we would like to see maybe the city partner with us in the community on those efforts. So first, a little bit about my organization, in case you aren't already familiar with us. So we are just kind of almost across the street. We are a faith-based nonprofit that's dedicated to promoting financial stability within our community, and that looks like a lot of different things. And so you can see in the packet I gave you, last year we served over 1,000 unique households. That's over 2,000 different people. It's about 8 to 9% of the county. When you look at everyone that we're serving, and it's across a variety of services. So we, of course, run the food pantry. That's what a lot of people are familiar with us about. But there's a lot of other programs that also happen within our building that maybe people don't always get to see. So, for example, we do a lot of life skills classes. We do financial literacy classes. We do gardening education. So actually this morning we had a group of individuals that were out at our little community garden right there in our parking lot learning about how to grow berries and growing their own food in their backyard and helping take care of our garden. We also do some social enterprises. So we have the thrift store, we have our recycling programs, and in addition to just providing services to the community and low-cost goods to the community, that also provides some jobs. So it's been really handy for us to, as we interact with individuals that may be struggling or between employment or coming out of addiction, things like that, to be able to have some opportunities to plug them into for employment as well through those social enterprises. And then social connections is another big thing that we focus on. So, of course, the classes are a big piece of that, but also just one-on-one case management. We get to know our folks that come through the pantry, that use our other services, and start to set goals with them, connect them to other individuals. For example, we also do some home deliveries to individuals through our food pantry, but as part of that, we don't just deliver food. We also work to connect them with individuals that can go into the home and just basically be their friend and get to know more about them, be, again, that social connection piece. But one of the areas that's always been kind of at the periphery of what we do, and because it is tied to financial stability indirectly, is housing and homelessness. So we've never necessarily claimed to be directly involved with homelessness, but we end up dealing with it anyway. So, for example, last year alone, we served over 59 individuals that are experiencing homelessness across food pantry, case management, just other services. Even though we're not necessarily a homelessness organization specifically, the reality is there's not too many organizations that are dealing with that. And that goes to the next page there, which has been, since I've been here, which has been about 6 years now, that's always been kind of one of the topics of conversation is where are the biggest gaps in services here in Bolivar and Polk County. It's usually homelessness, it's the kind of crisis intervention for psychiatric needs, and then transportation are like the three big things that keep coming up over and over and over. But when it comes to homelessness, we've had a couple individuals that have gotten involved with that, but we've never had like a true lead agency around this. Probably the closest we have is Polk County Cares, that over the past about 3 years has done the warming center in the winter. But once winter season's done, they don't offer a long-standing shelter or other homelessness services. So then we're right back to that gap in services. And so one of the things that we've been in conversations with, both with Community Connections and also the CMH Torch Project, which is another collaborative effort, is trying to develop more of that one-stop shop around homelessness. So, for example, if you look down at Springfield, one of the things you see is an organization called One Door and the O'Reilly Center for Hope. And that's essentially what this is. It's a place where someone who's either at risk of homelessness, maybe looking at losing their housing, or is already experiencing homelessness, can go to be connected to various resources. And so they don't offer shelter right there, but they do connect people to shelter. And they also have, for example, healthcare services. They have showers and laundry facilities there on site. They can make quick referrals to other organizations, get people on wait lists for housing, legal services as well. All those are kind of housed within that. And so that's one of the things that we've been talking about, trying to move towards having something similar within our community, because that's been one of the challenges, not just for our organization, but other organizations, is when you encounter someone who's in that situation of at risk of homelessness or experiencing homelessness, who do you send them to? Because there's no one's kind of just saying, oh, yeah, that's our project. And so right now, if you didn't know, whenever you drive by, you maybe have seen some construction things happening. That's because we're doing a massive office renovation project. So we're adding several meeting rooms, several more office spaces, adding an elevator to increase access to our second floor. But once that's all done here on the next few months, then we'll have a lot of additional space to be able not only to expand the services that we're offering, but also to be able to host other organizations. So, for example, we've already been in conversation with someone that's looking at maybe doing some basic medical care type things. And for around homelessness, some of the things we've already been doing is like we already allow someone who's on the streets to use our P.O. box to get mail, because that's always a challenge if you're trying to, say, get your birth certificate back or apply for Medicaid or other programs that could help you if you have no place to get mail. So we allow folks to use our P.O. box. We do actually have a shower on site already that we allow people to come use. And through a grant that we got through CMH, we are going to be installing some washer and dryers on site as well, so laundry becomes another opportunity as well. So, but with that renovation, there's just more opportunities to have more of those resources on site. And so one of the things that we're planning on doing this year is creating a housing advocacy coordinator actual staff position. Ideally, we want this to be a full-time position. And so we've already got some grant money, like I said, from CMH through their Torch project, which is all about how do we reduce hospitalizations and ER visits over at CMH, but also doing that through collaborative efforts, pulling different community resources together. So as part of that, we got some grant money towards this position. We are also partnering with the new Frisco housing development. They've got a couple units that are basically set aside for us to make referrals to whenever we're interacting with people that maybe could use that housing, so we can get them into housing a lot quicker. So there's a little bit of funding that's coming from that. But that kind of comes to this last piece where we really think that the city should be involved in this as well. And so if the city is open to it, we would also like to see if that's a position that the city would like to help put some money towards. And so last year, Thomas and I had talked about whether it's possible to use some of the opioid funding towards that, because that's obviously there is a big overlap between opioid abuse and addiction and homelessness. Unfortunately, that's not the only cause of homelessness, and because homelessness is very much based on a case-by-case basis. We have all kinds of people that are experiencing being unsheltered, and so there wasn't enough that was exclusively opioid related to be able to use that funding, unfortunately, in the end. But nonetheless, it is still a big need. And so as far as like where are the benefits to the city, so one of that last page is there. I just include a couple figures because the reality is that we as a community are already paying for homelessness being untreated and not dealt with, and no one kind of taking the lead on this. So this is not specific to Polk County, but it's from our neighboring county. So down in Springfield a couple years ago, they did a study and found that one person who is unsheltered chronically costs the community over about $30,000 a year, and that's between policing costs of responding to calls because this person's in someone's backyard or they're in the creek bed or a break-in, whatever the case may be, unpaid medical expenses, unpaid court fees, cleanup costs after having to deal with an encampment. When you factor up all those things, it's about $30,000 per homeless individual that the community was already paying. And so if you were to apply that to just the 59 people that we were aware of last year, that's a cost to our local community about $1.7 million across various agencies, the city, that we are basically paying to deal with this problem, but not actually deal with it in a holistic or meaningful manner. And so just when you put that in comparison, can we invest a little bit of money to hopefully reduce that burden on the community? And so for this year, kind of ideally what we'd like to do is, again, create a full-time position because it is going to be full-time work. It's a whole lot. But ideally, at least $20,000 from the city to kind of get us through this year, since we do have some other grant funding. In the future, it might be a little bit more if it seems like it's working well. But that's something I just want to propose to the city just to consider and see if that's something you all will be open to. And that's a little bit of update for us and see what questions you guys have.
Mr. Ross.
So quick, the housing coordinator, what does their job entail?
Yes, so there'd be essentially three pieces to their job. Thanks for asking. I have job description and stuff, but I was running around to soccer practices and other things, and it's on my desk. So if anyone wants to see what we're actually envisioning for that job description, I'm more than happy to email that to you. But basically three components. The biggest component is going to be running kind of that one-stop shop that's going to be housed within COM. So working to coordinate with other resources to either get them on site at certain times or at least creating the strong referral processes, doing some one-on-one case management with people who are coming in experiencing homelessness to figure out what are the specific goals and resources that they need and making sure to do those referrals. On the referral side, we are a member of the Unitas platform, which is housed through CMH. If you're not familiar with that, you need to get familiar with that. It's an amazing opportunity for our community. Basically, Unitas, it's a online software that CMH and the health center kind of help pay for, and it's free to other community organizations, but it allows us to quickly send referrals to each other. So, for example, CMH, if their social worker encounters someone who's experiencing food insecurity, they can do a referral to us at the food pantry, and that individual doesn't have to call us and play phone tag. We get it right there. We reach out to them, get them the information to get plugged into the food pantry. So we're a member of that, so that'll be a big piece of that one-stop shop is as the housing coordinators are working with people, they can quickly send those referrals to other organizations, as well as getting connected with our local continuum of care in the region, which has some housing programs that are available to get them on wait lists, things like that. So that's the big piece of what that person will be doing. Second piece is, like I said, we're working with one of the housing new housing units that are coming online in Frisco Highlands, and so there are a couple units that are set aside. So part of that job is doing some work within that complex to not just get people that we're working with on our side into housing, but also working with that community to make sure that when things come up that, you know, those problems don't pose a risk to their housing so they can stay housed stably. And then the third piece is doing just some more general advocacy, just, you know, working with the city, working with the county, exploring what are other unique opportunities to improve housing stability within our community. So for example, we've got some funding that we've had for a couple of years that we want to put towards some projects, but it's just having a person to figure out what's the best use of those funds, whether it is more transitional housing options, like we've got one house that we use that, you know, we got a single individual with a child that's, you know, working there, doing some case management. Is it more units like that, or is it something else?
So, and then one more follow-up. The question I hear, you know, and get proposed a lot is when you have, say, the one-stop shop for, you know, for people who are, you know, homeless and think. The biggest concern I hear from constituents, and I'm sure you probably hear it every day, is it just brings more into the community. So the question I would have with this position, what steps do we take? You know, we're providing the resources, but the ultimate goal is to get them affordable housing and into, you know, a house. What can we, you know, how do we alleviate some of that fear of, you know, people thinking, hey, when we offer these programs, because there is going to be a gap, like nobody has the magic wand to, you know, come to Bolivar and we have affordable housing.
Yep.
I mean, you know, that's probably, and I think we've talked about it a million times before about the lack of affordable housing here. And so, and you know, concern for the money side of it, like, you know, you mentioned, hey, there's somebody, you know, bathing in the that's a regular call that, you know, we get here. And so I think a lot of the fear people have is, will those calls go up?
Increase.
And, you know, does it help? Does it hurt? So
Yeah.
like, how do you, like, what's a good answer to that?
Well, first answer is I don't know that I buy it. Just to be perfectly honest, because when you talk to other communities, it doesn't matter what community it is. It seems like every community is saying the exact same thing. Like, oh, people are coming here because we give free resources. Well, if every community is supposedly having homeless people come to them because they're giving free resources, I don't know how that works. So that's one reason is as I talk to nonprofits in other communities, I hear a lot of those same concerns brought up in every single community. But, I mean, people can't be in every place at once. Second thing is, like, we're not proposing a shelter. And that's, I think, one thing that a lot of people experiencing homelessness really are looking for. And if they were to transfer from one community to another, it's looking for that shelter, which, you know, we are not at capacity to offer. And, you know, you'd have to figure out a good location. And I think that's more what would be a draw. And the reality is, at the end of the day, there are still a lot more resources in Springfield. So, and just from our experience as we work with people that are already here, you know, the thing that never comes up is, oh, I came to Bolivar because I heard you guys are so much more generous or things like that. I mean, that's not a comment that's being made. It's usually, you know, I had a connection here. I was originally from here, or, you know, we moved here a couple of years ago. We were working, and then, you know, we lost our employment, and, you know, we're still here. Those are the types of things we don't really hear people like, oh, yeah, I heard that, you know, Common does all this great stuff, and so I traveled up from Springfield to see you guys. I mean, that's not necessarily what's happening on the ground if you're actually working in the field there. The second thing I would say is the reality is it's already here. Like I said, you know, 60 individuals, and that's by no means everyone that's here. We know that number is greater. That's just the folks that came in that we interacted with without focusing on this. And so we have a choice, like, do we just continue to let it, you know, happen and no one's actually doing anything? Or do we try to provide some better services to get those individuals off the streets, which, you know, if we have a couple people that end up coming into the community because they hear about that, so be it. But if we're doing our job of getting people into housing and, you know, getting them cleaned up, doing what we need to do, I think that's a better outcome for us as a community.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple questions.
Yes, go ahead.
Sort of related to, I think, to what Dusty's asking. What metrics would you recommend that the city use to evaluate the efficacy of this position if you're looking for a recurring source of funding? So I understand you're asking for the first year, but then at some point the city would want to think about, okay, is this actually, are we getting a good return on investment? What does that look like? What metrics would you recommend that we use to evaluate whether this position is serving its purpose well?
Yes, so I think that's a great question. So for us as an organization, we really want to focus on outcomes, not just output. So I mean, even with like our case management, our financial literacy classes, it's not just like, okay, how many people did we serve? Okay, we ran 30 people through faith and finances. That's great. Well, what was the impact? So like with our classes, we also look at, okay, did that person's savings increase? Does their budgeting knowledge increase? How more comfortable do they feel with their financial literacy? So we are evaluating those outcomes. I think this would be the same thing that so we track all of our services within Charity Tracker, and part of this person's job, that's in their job description, is also looking at that very question of how do we make sure that we're doing things effectively. So it'd be tracking things like how many people did we get into housing, how many people gained employment, how many people were connected to X resources. So those would be the kind of measures that we would be able to provide to the city to say, hey, we saw X number of people that came through the one-stop shop. We were able to do case management with this number. We were able to get this many people into housing, this many people into this service, this many people, into drug rehab, things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you said you're looking for $20,000 from the city to help make it full-time in its first year. We're already into May. So are you thinking $20,000 just in 2025 or $20,000 for the first 12 months when you start the position, where it might be only $10,000 out of the 2025 budget and then 20 next year?
Yeah,
Does that
so it'd
make
be
sense?
like the first 12 months. So
Okay, so not necessarily all. So potentially at this point, probably only half of that would come due in this budget year for
Yes.
for the city.
Yeah.
And then is the torch funding or the funding through that Frisco Highlands contract, are either of those recurring sources of funding, or are those one
So
time?
the Frisco Highlands one's a 3-year contract, so that one is a little bit more sustainable. Torch, there probably will be some money in the future, but I'm actually on that committee as well. So
Yeah,
there's a
okay.
lot more money coming for, I think, the next 3 years. And so that's kind of, that committee is looking at the different options of what's the best use.
Okay.
And so, but this is one of the top 3 priorities, as well as that one-stop shop, as well as like a crisis intervention center, 24-hour center, are kind of the 2 big things that they're looking at for those big chunks of money that they're using for the next
Well,
couple
yeah, I
years.
mean, if their priority is to minimize the use of emergency services, I mean, I could see this being a pretty significant priority for them on that end. Thank you.
Further comments? Mr. Sagerson, go ahead.
Have you contacted the county, or have they pledged any money to you?
We haven't spoken to the county yet. We're starting with you guys, so which the county's helping support our recycling center as well at the moment, and so. But if we need to, we can talk to them too.
In regards to the total program that you have, and maybe when we have an appointment to meet
Yeah,
tomorrow.
you'll be over tomorrow. I can
and,
show you a lot more in depth on all these
we'll
things.
go over this. I just, and I'll probably save my questions then. I'm just wondering about is there an eligibility standard that has to be met before these services are going to be offered? Not just, we're kind of talking about homelessness right now, but I mean for the whole scope of the services. Are there eligibility requirements?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on the program. So for our food pantry, you do have to be under 200% of the federal poverty level for income. And so for that program, there is some like income guidelines.
And how do you establish the validity of their claim?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things we do is whenever we have a new person for the food pantry, we ask them for a couple documents. So we ask for a photo ID for adults in the household, birth certificates for everyone in the household, or excuse me, social security cards for everyone in the household, as well as proof of address, proof of income.
Yeah, proof of income. Okay, I didn't know.
So that could be like pay stubs, it could be social security, letter, statement,
Yeah.
things like that.
Okay.
Yep.
Questions and comments?
So I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Ross.
So ultimately, this year's ask would be 10,000, and the next year for the first, like Alderman Neal said, first 5 months. I'm trying to think. Yeah, May's
Well,
the fifth month.
if the idea is, I mean, so it would be
Yeah,
10
10 out
this
of
year,
this year,
10
10
next year, but if the idea is to have it be a continuing thing,
Then
it'd be 10 this
potentially
year,
another 10,
20
yeah,
next
20.
next year, depending on.
20,000 next.
Do we, Thomas? Do we have money in the budget? 10,000 this year.
This has not been budgeted for.
Okay.
But do we have 10,000? Sure. If that's something the board would like to pursue.
Okay.
But yeah.
Do you have a funding source that you think would be a good place to pull that from, that would be eligible for something like this?
Do we have any ARPA funds remaining?
No, there's no more ARPA
Okay.
funds.
I didn't know if we completely
have
used all of them.
some surplus in general, and we could easily take care of 10,000.
Questions and comments?
So I guess, is it something something to act on tonight, something to talk about in the future? I mean, what?
Yeah, so our hope is kind of by the end of this month, we'd like to be able to post the position. Part of it is, for us looking at our budget is, can we make it a full-time position right away, or do we have to start as part-time? Ideally, we want to start full-time just because, the person you hire part-time may not be the person that's best fit for full-time if we, get to the point where we can move it to a full-time position in the future. So where we're trying to just solidify all the different possible funding sources that we have and to be able to offer as many hours as we can from the get-go.
I think Thomas, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd suggest that, we get all the documentation from COM, the job description. I can work with Don Brown, we can write up an agreement, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, I was thinking that while this may sit well for all of us, it's decisions like this on the fly don't really work very well. We'll need to do this in a more organized fashion.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm happy to answer any additional questions or provide documents and work with Thomas or whoever I need to as well. So we're pretty flexible in that sense.
Questions and comments? Thank you very
All right.
much.
Well, thank you,
very
everyone.
much, Mr.
Appreciate your
Titterington.
time.
I appreciate it, and I look forward to our visit tomorrow.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Now then, Lieutenant Van Tassel, I believe that we have a report that I hope some of us has actually looked over this. And
I believe you all have the full report. Jill was gracious enough to dumb it down for me, so she gave me 5 minutes to actually present. So,
well, you have the floor.
all right, thank you, I appreciate it. All right, so who are we and what's our mission? Basically, our mission's been the same for the last several years. We had input from all of our staff, including the chief, to come up with our mission statement. So I think it is a good mission statement, and I'll just go through it. The mission of the Bolivar Police Department to provide professional and impartial service and protection of the lives, property, and citizens of Bolivar. We will serve the community with integrity, honesty, courage, and commitment to promote and maintain the safety and security of all. We will strive to create partnerships with the community while upholding and improving the quality of life and safeguarding the freedom and liberty of all citizens. All right, this is our leadership team. Obviously, Chief Webb has since retired. I think we're in the process of filling that position. I believe you have already done that. We have 24 sworn officers. We have 6 civilians, and we had 3 divisions within the operations of the department. Support services, which I'm over, operations is Lieutenant Palmer, and our investigation division is Lieutenant Barron. Proposition Public Safety. I would like to thank the board, and I'd like to thank Thomas and all who had a part in educating and getting the information out there. And I definitely thank the citizens for voting and supporting the first responders of Bolivar. It's very important to us, and we do appreciate it. But it's been great. It's helped us with pay raise, increase the staffing, enhance equipment, and also had advanced training for most of us. Community crime map. Hopefully I'm on the same page. All right. The crime map is something we implemented last year. Basically, people can get on this map. They can view crimes in the city of Bolivar, their particular area, neighborhoods. They can actually get on a neighborhood watch report list where they automatically get emails and breakdowns of certain crimes. They just have to filter on what they want to see and what they want to receive. They can also submit anonymous tips that go directly to us, so we can obviously work on those as they come in. All right, in 2024, our police reports, we had 1,149 reports for 2024. The top 3 categories are stealing, property damage, and mental health. Mental health is one of the ones that will increase as we go on, I'm afraid. But that's our top three, and if you have any questions on any of those, I can surely answer them. All right, investigations. With the public safety tax, we added an investigator and also offered better communications thanks to the crime map and training for our public information officer. Our property and evidence custodian took in 449 pieces of property or evidence last year, and we were up 114 from the previous year, which is significant.
To what do you attribute the huge rise in that category? Better,
I'm assuming it's more crimes, but it's actually based on articles. So if you have one crime that has 15 articles in that crime that we've taken, we've probably taken more items in that particular crime.
okay, is the evidence gathering stronger this year? I mean, is that,
I wouldn't say it's stronger. It's just how the program divides. So some things are packaged together, some things are packaged separately depending on what the crime is. So if I say the increase is of course we divided our property and evidence differently than we had previously. I don't think the crimes have actually increased. I think the number of items and the way we packaged them have increased, if that makes sense.
yes, I just wondered if that was, there probably wouldn't be a crime wave.
No,
I
it's not
just
a
wondered
crime
if
wave.
there was a different method of evidence collecting or more rigorous.
I'd say being that we
everything.
have different people collecting it, they collect it a different way, so they might categorize it or package it. Instead of one particular item, they might separate into multiple items. That makes
Okay.
sense. Training probably has a lot to do with that.
Okay, all right. So you're just, your method of accounting for it may be the reason for the increase in the number?
Very well, yep.
Okay, all right.
All right, a K-9 program. It looks based on this, on the deployments, March is the busiest month and Wednesdays and Thursdays. So stay off the road in March and on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Looks like we seized 34 incidents. We had a seizure and we had 20 arrests during that time, during that K-9 deployments. And it looks like methamphetamine is still a problem. It's 40% of our indications of drugs where our dog actually indicates and hits on that particular item, vehicle, or whatever, but most of it appears to be based on paraphernalia. Requests from other agencies, it looks like we're doing 49% of the business. That's most of the officers that call in for a K-9. High Patrol used us 17 times, which was 33% of the time. The Sheriff's Department used us once, which comes down to 2%. We've had a self-deployment, which means the officer is deploying the dog on his own stops or his own incidents, and he did 7 of those on his own. But those are broken down based on his stats that he puts in each month. All right, Pound, we had 617 calls for service for our animal control in our Pound. It looks like we had 187 animals, which are 154 dogs, 33 cats. We adopted out 18 animals, 59 dogs and cats went to rescues, and we returned 111 animals to their original owner. We still maintain the building for right now, the maintenance and everything until we build. I think that's in the work, maybe at some point for capital improvement.
Did you have to euthanize any of the animals?
It was less than 5, I believe,
Yeah.
for the year. We try not to euthanize.
I'm sure
unless
you
it's-
don't. I hope you don't
I believe it
misread.
was-
But
I
I'm
believe it was
asking
1 or
about
2,
that.
to be
There,
honest with you,
there's no overtones in that. I just
Yeah, sure.
I just wondered if there are animals that are just can't be rehabilitated
Sure.
or adopted.
It's
or-
unfortunate, but
and
usually it's the
are they
over-
vicious,
yeah,
perhaps?
vicious or injured to the point of unable to sustain the,
Yeah.
the medical
Okay.
billing. All right, vehicles. We had obtained 4 new Tahoes last year. We have 28 vehicles in our fleet. Some of those are extra, some of those are old. I think we're going to have a plan going forward on recycling some of those or sending them to another department or auction. I think that is in the works for next year. We don't have that broken down as of yet. Our drug tech back program, it's usually a success. We've got 362 pounds that we recovered and sent to the DEA to be destroyed. I think that's a very important program that we have. Along with the crisis intervention, we had met, and basically we have our council back up and running. They renamed it, and we are now the council of the Tri-Lakes CIT. And there's a new board that was developed and new assignments. I think everybody's excited about that. The community events that we've been a part of, we've been part of a lot of them. We just did Beef Days, National Night Out, Shop with the Cop, some of our more highlighted ones that we like to participate in. It's great for the kids, great for us, the community. It's just a really good time. Promotions that we had last year was our K-9 officer, which is Corporal Nystrom, if you're familiar with him. That was the only promotion we had last year. And also we had some new hires. So our investigator, we rehired, which is Nikki Stubblefield. She's on the left. We hired Officer Cooper, Davis, and Pippins last year. And our volunteers, it looked like we had 78 hours of volunteer service of one individual that helps us continually. She does a great job. We've had 2 interns from SBU that we used 50 hours. They did a lot of job shadowing for us. And that's all I have. Any questions?
I would imagine there would be potentially lots of questions. I mean, it's such an essential service. Just this probably comes from my own particular perspective. I know methamphetamine labs, the shake and bake in the parking lot labs were such a problem for a long time, and there were a lot of restrictions put on the purchase of pseudoephedrine that I was a part of that program, but it seems to me that era has somewhat passed. That what is my understanding from other sources and other experience that the real meth problem is coming out of Mexico or coming from foreign sources in much more potent and much more pure form and much less expensive and less hazardous to try to put up with. So it was sort of my observation as a pharmacist, even though I've not been active in that for a while, that the program to restrict the precursors for the production of methamphetamines in these little labs, that era is kind of past.
It helps substantially. Yep.
I mean, have you? Is that a valid observation?
That's pretty valid. Yep, that's good observation.
That
a lot of pills we still deal with. Opioids are a problem. Fentanyl's a problem. Methamphetamine's still a problem. It's not as big as a problem as it used to be, but it's still a problem.
Yeah.
Heroin's still a problem.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
My goodness. Questions from the panel? Oh, Mr. Wilson, please. Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. I have 2 questions. You were talking about our K-9 doing mutual aid. Was the dog and they handed her off at those times, or were you called in?
It's a combination of both.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we do get calls when he's off.
Sure.
And most generally, it's going to be Highway Patrol that does that. They're really good about when our officer's on, they'll call. Sure. You know, when he's working. But the majority of the calls that are outside are based on Highway Patrol.
Awesome. My next question, you were talking about the top 3 crimes in calls, stealing, property damage, and mental health. Do you guys have like a plan of moving forward of how to lower those numbers at all?
I believe that's a great question for the new chief when he gets here.
All right.
That a command staff will obviously, tackle that together.
Sure.
I think it's a good question, and I believe that's on the agenda.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Questions and comments?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ross, go ahead, please.
As far as mental health being a top 3 call, it is, and I know that we have talked about it before, and I think we're trying to do something. Did we look into the opioid money with that, and was that a possible?
Polk County Health.
Yeah.
Health Center.
Okay, so we have an actual plan kind of in place to maybe help offset some
I
of.
believe we brought that to the table, and it's still being spoken about. I don't know the details exactly how that's going to look, but
I think they're in the
money is for
process
that.
of hiring somebody right now.
Okay.
I believe she brought that to one of the meetings.
Yeah,
at one
she was
time
here
with
a
us.
couple meetings ago. Yeah, with that. So.
Good question.
Questions and comments from the panel?
Thank you.
Lieutenant Van Tassel, thank you very much for a good report. All right, let's see. Excuse me, please. All right. I guess, Mr. Lee, do you have a report that can bring us up to date on the city cleanup?
Sure. Just I'll be brief tonight. Just primarily want to just draw attention that we did complete the citywide cleanup project. It was a total of 7 working days that we were able to get it done, so we felt that was a good success. And you see some numbers there. I think we've got them on the screen as well. But a few less stops this year, but overall more pounds of trash removed, and obviously that increases our dump fees somewhat. But similar in nature overall to last year as well. That was the first year we've been tracking the data. So have that information there for you. Most of all tonight, I just would want to say, publicly thanks to our staff that worked really hard on this. Everything from folks in the office that take more phone calls and things like that, and Jill getting things posted on our Facebook and communication out there, but especially some of our folks downstairs in the community development staff and our streets, and some folks from parks came over and helped us, and everybody just did a lot of hard work. It is hard work. You're in and out of trucks, in and out of tall trucks, up and down. You're grabbing people's trash. It's not really the thing that they all signed up for. So I commend everybody for jumping in there and getting hard at it. And we appreciate the citizens, everybody. We create the rules and the guidelines for it to work efficiently. And when that's followed, it works efficiently. And so we're thankful for that. So I think that's all I had, just to say thanks to our staff.
Of course, it's been going on for some years, and I've obviously hadn't paid that close attention to the details, but I was stunned at the scavengers that I would put stuff out that had collected back in the back and had hardly got it out, put it out before the scavengers showed up. And how much relief did that give the whole process?
I mean, there's certainly folks that find their treasures in somebody else's discards, but they get out there ahead of us, and we're happy for them. It saves us a trip, as long as they don't create a more of a mess or anything. But it works out well. But ultimately, we end up getting it all out by the end of that time frame. So.
Thank you, Mr. Lee, for a great job. I think the city is now cleaner and happier for having done that.
Yep. All right.
Okay. Any more questions from the panel? Excuse me. Thank you very much. All right, moving on. The cemetery grave digging bid review. Mr. Relaford, are you the spokesman for that?
Yes, sir. As you see in the bid, in the packet, we only had one submission. It's from our current provider,
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yeah, we saw that.
Yep. It's a slight increase, but this will be the first increase in over 6 years. He does quality service, and we're going to be passing this cost on.
Yeah,
to
the cost,
consumer.
that's an item. I suppose it really won't matter to us, I guess, what the cost is, because that would be passed on completely to the
That's right.
ultimate.
So I think this is a
Shall we
fair
say
bid,
consumer?
and I recommend that the board approve it.
Okay. Mr. Ross, do you have a question?
I was just gonna make a motion to approve it, but I was just gonna wait for you to
Yeah.
do that.
Okay.
I was just bringing it
All right.
down.
Well, so are we needing a motion to approve?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I entertain a motion to approve the bid for the grave digging.
I'd make the motion to approve the bid for the grave digging.
Second.
A second. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that.
Second through 8.
There you go. Okay, duly recorded, I take it. Okay. That it requires. That's just a voice vote, or does that require a?
Yea or nay?
Okay. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The bid for the grave digging has been approved. Now then, the Bolivar storm water standard operating procedure review. Mr. Relaford, are you, is that Mr. Lee's
No,
purview?
Mr. Lee's going to handle this one.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, we discussed that, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, right, okay. Thank you.
We have had some previous discussion about this, but bring it here for the board to see, and I think there ultimately, maybe some discussion there on point 5 on the back, but if the mayor would like, I can read through this, but I think maybe it might be easier just to summarize. We have various scenarios
Yes.
that's when we're dealing with drainage areas within the city. Obviously, in this season, especially, we get lots of calls. I'm sure aldermen as well get lots of calls related to stormwater issues within neighborhoods and within people's individual properties. And so this standard operating procedure is intended to give a methodology for how that would be approached. So we would take each scenario, each situation. It's obviously they're all unique locations and things like that, but we would try to fit them as easily or as accurately as we could within one of these scenarios, and then would deal with it in a way that's detailed there in the response. So the important thing for me about this is that we would deal fairly and consistently with the public. We don't want to, just the nature, of different situations and the time passing, even the busyness of, your own personal day or things like that. Sometimes your response may lack consistency, and so the goal here is to provide consistency in the staff's response to individuals, and also provide a significant level of fairness. What is the city as a city going to perform on behalf of maybe an individual property owner if there isn't an easement that exists, or the city has never done any stormwater work, or it's a private culvert that is causing the issue, or things like that. So that's what is walked through in this SOP, standard operating procedure. When you get to scenario 4 and 5, that is one that I've taken the guidance as I've understood it from the board to create the details that are listed in scenario 5. So in scenario 4, essentially you have drainage areas in a right-of-way that may, just by virtue of time, have become sedimented in, or they need some sort of care or attention. It could be as simple as a mowing or something like that, some removal of trees or things like that, or it could be more significant. It needs heavier equipment, needs to be dredged out or reshaped, or something. Then stepping into scenario 5, which would be the inclusion of some improvement owned by an individual, like a culvert or a driveway apron may have failed. So you might have a property owner who had, 50 years ago, there was a culvert there, and now it's covered in with sediment and dirt and things like that. So the stormwater is not functioning as it was intended to function. And so then we would come to them with these details, these options listed there in scenario 5 on the back of the page. So this is what I present. I think we still ultimately need Don's review on this and see if this fits in the intent of the board. But essentially, there are 3 options there. One would be, or that I'm presenting for consideration, one would be, of course, if the property owner, if we identified as the city that there was a culvert that was failed, or a driveway apron, something that needed to be repaired or replaced, we identified that to the property owner, and the property owner said, okay, I'll replace it, and they want to do that on their own, hire their own contractor, that kind of thing, then they would proceed with that. The second option there would be that the city would direct them, this is necessary to be replaced, but we would then offer to perform that installation with the property owner bearing the cost
for the materials that are associated with their individual property. And then the option 3 is considering a circumstance where a property owner would not desire to share that cost, would not desire to make those improvements. And then I've set there that the city, my recommendation is the city could take similar steps. And Don, this will be where we may have to codify that more fully, but would be able to, from my understanding, take similar steps as we would if there was a sidewalk that was failed. And it's a similar type of improvement. So an individual property owner, the sidewalk in front of their property right now, our ordinance is detailed that the board can condemn the property, condemn the sidewalk, and order it to be repaired or replaced. And then there's a process. There's a codified process for how to approach that. So that's, given the discussions that we've had, the recommendations that I'm bringing. Of course, looking for any direction or additional guidance, and we may need to do some additional work within our ordinances.
Is this standard is this SOP that we have here in play in full in other municipalities? I mean, I didn't know if this was what sources that you use to.
We've reviewed others. It is it's difficult to identify.
Sure.
And even this, a standard operating procedure is normally a policy, so it's something more internal. But it's difficult to identify. It's easy to identify in communities where future development is. You can find stormwater ordinances just like you can for the city of Bolivar. Find all our stormwater ordinances and what's required for new improvements and what happens if that improvement fails, or all of that. That's pretty succinct for existing communities. Finding how they handle it. What I've found is there's not a lot of consistency, and so that's part of the drive actually to create something, is to have a greater level of consistency. So.
This seems fair. Where does that, what scenario would be applied to that problem that surely has been recurring for years up on Parkview? That dip with a 8-inch pipe drain to nowhere.
Yeah. It's a unique one, right? So in that case, we without having this, fully in place, we've, operated as we've, felt was appropriate at the time. And so in that situation, the city, the city bore the cost to have that roto-rootered out essentially, and the clog was taken care of, and we are constructing like a cone drain, strainer on it to help prevent that in the future. But I would say that's in the minimal response necessary.
Yeah.
What it appears is that what was installed, whether that was installed by the city, it does appear that that is likely the case, but it was installed and there may not have been, all of the easements necessary. I mean, this is why I'm trying to create something so moving forward we have a and I could be not here tomorrow and someone else could pick this up and run with it and do the same thing, and it'd be just consistent and fair.
New codes for an old city.
Yep, and that's how it goes. I mean, we have to be reasonable and have some sort of procedure, essentially.
Okay. Questions, comments from the board?
I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
And if this is a better question for another setting, that's fine. But I'm curious if you can clarify maybe how stormwater intersects with sewer, because a lot of the stormwater may collect and run through the sewer system. And I was just wondering if there's any overlap between Liberty's responsibility for managing water in the city and our stormwater. I mean, I assume obviously the ditches are not part of their infrastructure that they purchased when they made the purchase. I'm just trying to think of if those two systems, are they completely separate? It seems like they wouldn't be completely separate, but.
Well, they actually should be separate systems. So like in a sewer system, you have what's called I&I, like infiltration
Right.
and intrusion. So you don't want stormwater coming
Okay.
into your
Gotcha.
sewer system. You want that to be, now, a sewer system is never perfectly, somebody's clean out has a cap that's missing and rainwater or some, other leakage somehow is intruding. But the sewer system, both when we owned it and when Liberty owns it, you want to limit
Okay.
any stormwater getting into that system because it overloads your system. The storm, we refer to it as a storm sewer. So
Right.
that can terminology can crisscross there, but that's really just referring to the system of pipes underground. So they should though remain two separate, systems, maintained separately, different levels of responsibility.
Sure.
Or
I just want to make sure that we clarify for people which sorts of situations the city has responsibility for and retains responsibility for, despite the fact that the sewer and water system is no
Yeah.
longer under the direct authority of the city.
Yeah. So this is just
Clarify.
talking about essentially rainwater.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank
Right.
you.
Comments, questions? Thank you, Mr. Lee. Always appreciate your presentations.
I guess I probably just need the level of clarity that would work with Don to confirm these things meet our regulations in a manner that we would proceed. Is that what the board?
Counselor,
is
do we need to
desiring?
take action on this to codify this in any way?
If the board would like to go ahead and approve this as is, knowing that we may need to tweak it some more, the board, you can certainly entertain a motion to formally adopt this, and
All right.
it just would be by motion, and then it would just become a policy of the city.
All right, I will entertain a motion to adopt the standard operating procedure for stormwater and drainage.
I'll make that motion subject to any tweaking recommended by council.
Second.
Discussion. Have we had, do we believe that Mr. Lee presented the discussion appropriate and complete? Then we should, will a motion like that, Counselor, require a voice vote or a roll call vote?
Voice vote would be just fine.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. We have adopted the standard operating procedure of the stormwater drainage with further tweaks, a possibility in the future. Can you put something like that in a resolution?
Yes, I mean, essentially, we just made it the policy, but again, if Kyle and I need to go through and tweak
Yeah,
it,
okay.
we would just bring
policies
those.
can be
Yeah.
it can be retweaked.
Yeah.
Just by by their nature.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Street sweeping services for the city of Buffalo, Mr. Relaford. Relford.
Yes, sir. We had a request from the mayor of Buffalo for support in the form of a street sweeper. And so I think it's a valid request, and I think something I'm willing to support. I wanted to bring it to the board for consideration. We're talking like maybe a day or two. Talking with Kyle and his team, we think it would be fair for roughly $95 an hour. That would cover some wear and tear on the sweeper, plus the cost of our operator, which is a necessity. We're not going to allow them to operate our equipment. It'd be one of our personnel that would do that because it's such a specialized piece of equipment. So $95 per hour, and I've talked with the mayor in Buffalo. He's okay with that, and we would enter into some type of agreement with them, and we would formalize it. But I'm just looking for board approval to move forward and support the city of Buffalo.
Counselor, do we need something more formal, or just yay, go ahead at this point?
At this point, and again, after of course, if the board wants to discuss it, they certainly can. But whenever they're ready, just a motion to direct Thomas and myself to move forward with a more formal agreement would be probably the best way to do
Mr.
it.
Sagerser.
Are we trailering it over there or driving it?
No, sir, we'll drive it.
So their time will start when they leave Bolivar city limits?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, Ms. Raines.
Alderman Neal.
I'm sorry.
Thomas, when you said 1 to 2 days, 1 to 2 days a month, 1 to 2 days?
No, this is a one-time
Just a
thing.
one time, they only want,
That's correct.
their streets aren't gonna get.
They have a festival or something coming
Okay,
up,
gotcha.
and they
I was
have
like,
a couple. They do
Man, I
not.
wish cleaning tasks were just a one-time thing, but they don't work that way in my house.
No, as you can imagine, they don't own a street sweeper. It's a
Sure,
very
of
expensive
course.
piece of equipment,
Okay,
and of course we do. And they
Sure.
have something coming up, and they just have a few streets they like to take care of.
gotcha.
And I think it's a good mutual aid type of thing.
Sure,
Okay.
makes perfect sense, thank you.
This could be recurring. I would imagine the streets would need to be swept again at some point. Our discussions with the driver said you could drive at 60 miles an hour down the street sweeper. So I guess we just get on the road and go.
I wouldn't advise that.
Well, the thought of that was a little daunting, but he made the claim that you could drive at 50 and 60 miles an hour. So, Counselor, we just simply ask for a motion to move forward.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that would be great.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to accept the offer. How do we say this? A motion to allow our street sweeper to be used by the city of Buffalo for a fee of $95 an hour. Is that a proper motion?
Yes, sir. And then I will bring a proposed agreement to the next meeting.
Okay.
Will that work with their timeline?
Yes, they were good with later this month. That'd
Okay.
be fine.
I'm asking for a motion.
So move.
Second.
Okay. Discussion. Voice vote. I'm sorry, go ahead. Those in Counselor voice vote.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that'll be appropriate.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Abstained.
We now will allow the.
You had
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Beg your pardon.
I abstain.
Okay. All right. So we have 7 ayes, 1 abstention. The motion passes. And we will now allow the city of Buffalo to lease our street sweeper for $95 an hour. Okay. I'll entertain a motion for the first reading of bill number 2025-23.
First reading.
All right, Counselor, shall you read the bill, please?
Yes, sir. This is bill number 2025-23, ordinance number 4045, an ordinance authorizing a contract with the Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration for a reimbursable project to reconfigure the airport runway PAPI lights.
Okay, any discussion? Mr. Whittington, would you care to elaborate on this just a little bit, please? And kind of introduce yourself. Everyone.
I think everyone's familiar with me. I'm Seth Whittington. So this is just a part of the project, but this part of the project, the FAA does a flight check on the PAPI lights after it's installed. So it's a lighting guidance system. So they fly it with their pilots in their aircraft to check the tolerances of the system, and it'll have to be adjusted accordingly to their feedback from that. So as you can see, it's quite expensive, but it's cheaper than the initial price that we had budgeted for it.
Mr. Relford, any comments you'd have on this?
No, sir. We definitely want to support this.
second reading.
Counselor.
Yes, sir. This is bill number 2025-23, ordinance number 4045, an ordinance authorizing a contract with the Department of Transportation, the Federal Aviation Administration for a reimbursable project to reconfigure the airport runway PAPI lights.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Sagasser.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Ballard.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Moores. Price. Rains.
Aye.
Okay, by a vote of 8 ayes and 0 noes, we have passed bill number 2025-23. I entertain a motion for the first reading of bill number 2025-24.
First reading.
Second.
Counselor,
This is Bill number 2025-24, ordinance number 4046, an ordinance authorizing the City of Bolivar's 2025 contribution to the Economic Development Partnership.
Discussion. Oh, I'm sorry.
How
Whoops.
much is that?
Yeah.
50.
Yes, Mr. Sagasir. Do you have a question here?
I just want to know how much we're spending.
Okay.
Mr.
Assemblyman
Mayor?
Raines. Okay, Mr. Relford.
Sir, this was budgeted in the 25 budget and approved for $50,000. This is our annual contribution to EDP.
Assemblyman. Ms. Neal.
Yes, I was wondering, we haven't had them come and talk to us in a while. Do we know where the EDP is with what they've been doing, what their director is up to? Have we met?
They're on the agenda for work session June.
Okay, because I knew that they were looking for someone, but I don't know that I've ever been told if they filled the position, who they filled the position with, what they're up to, any of that. So I know that we approved this as part of the budget, but I had thought we would maybe hear back from them sooner than now.
I think
June.
that's a reasonable expectation. 50,000 is a significant amount to me, and economic development is an iffy proposition under any circumstances, and I think maybe having a little thorough accounting or explanation is due. Comments and questions? Okay, let's see. That was the first reading, was it not?
Second reading.
Okay. Counselor.
And this is Bill number 2025-24, ordinance number 4046, an ordinance authorizing the City of Bolivar's 2025 contribution to the Economic Development Partnership.
So before we,
Further discussion?
yes, thank you. So if we are wanting that information, should we not vote on this yet?
Well, to me, I think this is this is almost a clerical item at this point, because it is a budgeted item that has been presented and passed and approved. But I think Ms. Neal's idea of having them come give a more thorough explanation of what they're doing and how they're spending the money is certainly appropriate. That's my feeling. If the board would want to back off from this now, that's your discretion.
I guess my question would be, is there a reason that the approval of this item is on the agenda for this meeting? Like, does it affect their cash flow that they get this approved by? I'm not looking to try and make life harder for someone by kicking the can down the road, but if it just happened to be on this month's agenda and could just as easily be on next month's agenda without inconveniencing anyone, I think it makes sense to have the voters get a chance to hear what the EDP has been up to as we are committing those funds. Totally understand, though, that the decision is made at the budget point and that part's already done. So I'm not strongly passionate about it either way. Just want to make sure we're not put anybody in a tight spot if we decided to wait till we hear from them.
Mr. Relford, what's your perspective on that then?
No, I think that's a board decision when you want to pay it. They submitted the invoice to us. The board already approved it in the 25 budget. We submitted it today, expecting it to be approved.
Sure.
And we have already planned to have Mr. Testerman talk before the board next month.
Okay.
So it's on, excuse me, but so it is on this agenda because we have been presented with the invoice. Is that?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, I see.
And I think,
Go ahead, Mr. Go ahead,
Mr.
Ross.
My opinion is, moving forward, before we commit to, next year's budget with this, I think what
Right.
I look at it as we've committed to it. Last year it's already half. I would like to hear what he says before we commit
Right.
any further, but I would hate to be like, we've already committed. We don't like what you say, so we're gonna, we're
Right.
gonna not commit. Like, I don't know whether we wait till next meeting to approve it or not. I mean, I don't know the outcome's going to be, well, we approved it, but now we're going to, you know, and so I think when we approve it doesn't necessarily have, now he needs to come in, let us know what's going on. And I think that needs to weigh on our decision
Yes.
in November and December for next year. And if we're like, hey, we're not happy or we're over the moon happy, then I think we make our budget decision based off of that, as opposed to, you know, like, yeah, we've already approved it and yeah, you know, now we're not going to. But that's just my
No,
thoughts on it.
I think that makes sense, right? If for some reason we didn't like what we heard from him, the appropriate recourse is not to withhold the funding we've already promised, but would be to make a different decision for next year regarding future funding. So I certainly wouldn't want to give the impression that come and present to us and whether you get paid for this year
Yes.
is going to hinge
No pressure.
on this presentation. I think I was just expecting that we would, I feel like it's been a long time. And so I had sort of thought that we would have been kept in the loop a little bit more, even if we're just being asked to pay for what we already.
Totally agree. Now that I totally agree with.
So, but yeah, I would agree that, yeah, if we don't like what's happening, the recourse is 2026 recourse, not 2025 recourse. So I'm fine to vote on it tonight. I don't think that has to wait.
Does that satisfy some of your concerns?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it does satisfy some of my concerns.
Okay, all right. Where are we on this process, Counselor?
There's already a first and second reading, so we're ready for a roll call.
Okay.
There you go.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Moores.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Ballard.
Aye.
Price. Sagasser.
Aye.
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 By a vote of 8 ayes and 0 noes, we have approved Bill number 2025-24. I entertaining a motion for the first reading of Bill number 2025-25.
First reading.
Second.
Counselor?
This is Bill number 2025-25, ordinance number 4047, an ordinance approving a year-ending 2024 budget amendment for revenues and expenses to various departments reflecting year-end expenses for the city of Bolivar, Missouri.
Ms. Scrivener, would you care to kind of go over some of the things that are a part of this discussion? And we have the numbers kind of in front of us, but if you will sort of shine a light on some of this, I think it might be helpful. Thank you.
Brief comment about this is a annual year-end revenue versus expenses. If you look at the budget report, you will notice that some items there's no revenue budgeted, so we did receive some revenue, for example, on some grants. If we applied for it last year, didn't get it, it shows up in this year, and the same with some expenses. Or if you remember that we had sold some real estate this last year, we didn't budget for it, but this report would reflect that revenue. So through based on part of the year-end audit process, this is the revenue and expenses that we ended up with, and we just asked for an approval that you accept what they are as of right now. And then our audit will be ready for us in June, the regular session, and of course she'll have some audit adjustments to do after she does our presentation.
Questions and comments?
I have some questions.
Go ahead, please.
So just to clarify, and I'm sure we've done it this way every year, so apologize if I'm just not remembering, but is there a reason that we go ahead and make these adjustments knowing that in a month we're going to need to adjust these numbers again, as opposed to waiting and doing them all in connection with the audit?
Well, a few of her adjustments are going to be liability accounts or payroll. Like one of our payrolls in 2025 was 1 week of 24s, but I can't do those adjustments till after she gets done.
Right. So
but
I'm
these
wondering,
are actual figures.
Okay. I noticed that they were unaudited, and I was just wondering if if it wouldn't just make sense to do all of that once we have the audited numbers.
Right.
The other question I had was just looking at some of the differences between the original budget and the actual fiscal activity. Looked fairly significant, and it may be that we had these discussions and talked about those, and I just don't remember specifically. But looking at the expense under Department 505, 11-505-5010, wages, the budget was $503,094, $3,094, and the actual fiscal activity was more than $100,000 more than that. Can you remind me why wages came in so much higher than budgeted in the general government expense category?
Well, from what I can figure out, we had some employees leaving that were paid in general. They retired. There was some PTO payout, some overtime payout, and I think there's step programs in there. And I think there was a month of a payroll of Paycor was tagging some administrative ladies in other departments in our department. But they are still in the general house. They're just the ladies staff over at public police department. So those adjustments will be Rebecca's. I can't change those until she gives me those adjustments. It's just part of the software.
So are you thinking that 619 number will end up being lower after the audit?
For us,
Okay, for the general government. Okay, and then further down in that same section, 11-505-5335, professional services came in about $200,000 higher than budgeted. Do you remember what the reason is for that?
Yes. We had ARPA reports ending, and based on the 14 revisions from ARPA rules, we had the Liberty cases tagged in ARPA based on the federal government trying to recoup those funds based on litigation. Rebecca suggested that those legal fees were not coded to ARPA, so those got moved to general. And in turn, we took expenses that would have been capital eligible and put those in ARPA instead.
Oh,
and so that in turn would, some departments got those capital expenses charged in ARPA, and general can handle the legal fees this year, because other items came in lower. So
sure.
And I do know that all of our departments did really well this year. They all landed in the black, and they also got to keep a majority of their insurance money. So we did extremely well.
Okay.
Holding our expenses down.
Sure. I hadn't realized that about the legal fees with ARPA. So that's
Yeah, that didn't come to light until we actually had the audit, and I mean that's what she does, and she was getting some feedback from others about what exactly should we spend ARPA funds on.
Right.
And so all we're doing is trying to move that money around to
yeah.
make sure that the expenditures we had using ARPA were valid and wouldn't be contested down the line.
Yep. I appreciate. I'm a big fan of not being contested down the line. So thank you for
we just
taking
didn't
care of
want
that.
them to take that money back.
No, we definitely don't want that. Thank you very much. Those are the questions that I had.
Further questions and comments? Are we ready for the second reading?
Second reading.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
I'm going to do the.
What? He's got to read it first. Oh, I'm sorry. Please.
Yes, sir.
Counselor.
Yes, sir. This is Bill number 2025-25, ordinance number 4047, an ordinance approving a year-ending 2024 budget amendment for revenues and expenses to various departments reflecting year-end expenses for the city of Bolivar, Missouri.
Further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Wilson.
Aye.
Morse.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Raines.
Aye.
Ballard.
Aye.
Sagasser.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
By a vote of 8 ayes and 0 noes, we have passed Bill number 2025-25. I'm entertaining a motion for the first reading of Bill number 2025-26.
First reading.
Second.
This is,
Counselor?
thank you. This is Bill number 2025-26, ordinance number 4048, an ordinance authorizing an employment agreement with Christopher Jones for employment as the police chief of the city of Bolivar, Missouri.
My goodness, surely there is some discussion. Or have we looked over the contract?
Mr. Mayor, would you like me to kind of hit some of the highlights?
I would very much like that, Mr. Relford.
Okay, just for the audience to know, I was given guidance by the board to work with Mr. Johns to hammer out an agreement for his employment, and so this is what we have figured out, and he's already signed this. So this is just waiting the board's approval. So we've agreed to a $99,000 annual salary. He's going to get all the benefits that any normal city staff would get. He is going to, with board approval, receive some money to bridge the gap in his health insurance. As you know, our health insurance does not kick in for 60 days, and he would be coming off his. So we thought it'd be fair to compensate him for that. It'd be at the tune of $562 per month. He'll get a vehicle, as any police officer would. We have worked out some PTO, paid time off. He's going to be front-loaded 60 hours, and he will accrue as if he has been with the city for 5 years. So we thought that would be fair. Moving on, so obviously he's a full-time employee. Mr. Johns, soon to be Chief Johns, has a long history of training, with the Drury Law Enforcement Academy. We think it's beneficial for him and for the city to keep that relationship with Drury Law Enforcement Academy for recruitment reasons. And also, too, he is a master instructor at a taser company that he's been with for many years. I don't think that would be a major thing if we allow him to continue that teaching. He said it's only going to be out 1 or 2 days per year. And he would have to be on paid time off to actually do that training.
Okay.
So typically there is no secondary job, but there's some caveats in it for that. And then lastly, per the board, we worked out a deal to give him 90 days to find a place to live here. And after the 90 days, he will get temporary housing for 6 months until he finds something permanent.
Okay.
Thomas, sorry, just a quick question.
Alderman Raines, go ahead.
Neil.
Neil, good grief.
And you may not remember this off the top of your head. I certainly don't. But I'm wondering, again, for the listener, do you remember how that salary compares to police chief salaries in the state of Missouri for municipalities our size?
I don't have that data in front of me, but I would think it's probably in the middle of the road. I don't think it's on the high end. I don't think it's on the low end. I mean, it's not going to be what a police chief makes of a suburb of Springfield or Kansas City, but it's more than a smaller department in the surrounding areas as well. Right. So I think it's a competitive wage for a police chief.
Well, I know that it can sound high because it's a lot higher than a lot of other city employees, but just wanted to put that in context of in order to be competitive for a job like this is the level of compensation that goes with a job like this in the state of Missouri right now. So.
And you can imagine the level of responsibility of a police chief is
absolutely.
high.
Absolutely.
Further discussion? I think that it had been explained to us by the counselor that chiefs, through the wisdom of the state legislature, had given them special protection that they can't be dismissed summarily. There is a specific list of infractions or things that for which a chief can be relieved, and there are outside of that they are not. So this makes not only is the position of extreme importance, but the protection that it's afforded is unique. Further discussion? I guess we are ready for a roll call.
Second reading.
I beg your pardon.
Second reading.
Okay. I entertain a motion for a second reading.
Second reading.
Second.
Okay, Counselor.
Thank you, sir. This is
This
is bill number 2025-26, ordinance number 4048, an ordinance authorizing an employment agreement with Christopher Johns for employment as the police chief of the city of Bolivar, Missouri.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Raines.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Moores.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Sagasser.
Aye.
Ballard.
Aye.
By a vote of 8 ayes and 0 noes, we have passed ordinance bill number 2025-26. Now, going into executive session.
No,
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman comments. We,
Alderman comments.
Oh, yes. Before we go in, you have Mr. Elford.
Mr. Mayor, I may make a comment. We plan on doing an open house before the next meeting for Chief Johns for the public can meet him.
Okay.
And we'll probably do that at 5 or 5:30 for the
Right.
regular session.
All right, very good. We need to be sure to get that publicized. And we passed a measure earlier in the session that we have alderman comment period. I don't know if we need to have time limits on them, but who would like to speak first?
Well, you always have something.
Well,
No, just again, thank you for our street department for the city cleanup. If you wouldn't mind giving guys from the board a thank you, and also kind of the ordinance guys just doing an amazing job as well. I've got a couple calls on the violations being fixed, so thank you with that.
okay.
I guess I drove by the all-inclusive playground this morning, and it's looking really good. They're starting to lay that first layer of
Pour in place.
the pour and play surface, and it's looking good. So I think talked to Todd earlier. They're going to add some colors to it coming up. So and I think what's the date for the
touch a truck.
Yeah, the
May
touch
23rd.
truck and the ribbon cutting. So looking forward to that. And I mean, if you haven't been by, drive by. All the equipment's up, everything's up, and we went out there while they were pouring the concrete and watching them. It's been an awesome process. So really looking forward to that.
Further comments? Well, that was easy. All right. Now I'm accustomed to hammering in an executive session. Let's see, isn't there a process here?
Ask for a motion.
Yeah, well,
Yes, oh, yes. Yeah, okay.
Mr. Mayor,
I am,
it won't be necessary, Mr. Mayor. The things that we thought would be on executive have kind of fallen through and are going to be pushed off to the next meeting.
so an executive session is no longer necessary, you're saying, Mr. Elford?
Correct.
Well, then,
you need a motion to go home.
I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We actually have to have a roll call to.
No, this is just ayes.
Okay. Adjourn.
Aye.